Hey there, Squirrel Army. It's time for another of the new Phyrexia Commander decks. And I know that sounds a little weird by calling it the new Phyrexia, but it's the new Phyrexian set, Phyrexia All Will Be One. This is Rebellion Rising deck with our commander, Niali, Sun's Vanguard. 4 mana, 3/3, that gives our attacking tokens double strike. And whenever one or more tokens we control attack a player, we exile the top card of our library, and during any turn we attack with a token, we may play that card. So it gives us some Boros card advantage here. It gives our tokens double strike. So we want to be Boros tokens and just want to get some good old card advantage out of our commander. I actually built a similar deck to this, which was Commander Liara Porter, a couple of weeks ago, actually. So we might be sort of semi-copying that, as if I kind of knew that we were kind of building something like this, but we will be going down more of a tokens route and making more bodies with some of the myriad effects and things like that, maybe. I did think that we might want some of those more myriad effects in that, because those technically are tokens as well. But they don't technically attack, so I don't know. Those were one of those things that I did consider with that, and I'm considering with this, because it is one of those kind of semi-non-bows that you just think, well, this should work, but it doesn't work. But anyway, we should go along, find some token generators in our colors, which are mostly going to be white. Honestly, well, the best ones are going to be in white anyway. Certainly, I do think there might be a few that are in the new set, not a super huge amount, but we will certainly look at some cards from the new set. So let's get along and get going and have a look at our deck list. Alright guys, so here we are having a look at the deck list here. I'm a little bit surprised that this deck doesn't have as many new cards as what the other deck does. That's just fine as well. Not every deck needs to have as many cards as each deck new. But yeah, this is quite a interesting deck. I do feel like there is some decent ramp in this deck for what's going on here. Not the best sometimes, but it's still got a fair amount. Like, maybe we need a little bit more ramp here and there, but I do think that it is better than the other deck for the most part. I do think that we're a little bit light on maybe a couple kill spells or whatnot, but not terrible. Certainly. So, yeah. But also, I do feel like we do have enough wraths, so, and especially a heap of wraths, actually. So, we're probably fine on that front. Some of these cards that are just a little bit meh to me, like the goblins and hordling outbursts and whatnot, I'm probably going to cut. Heroic reinforcements, etc. I don't love Rip Apart, especially since it's a sorcery. It's pretty modal, but yeah, I'm not in love with it. But yes, there are a few other things in here that I do see that are standing out, obviously. Besides, like, all the bad tap lands and Temple of the False God and things like that and whatnot. But again, like, it'll be a pretty basic mana base that I would change this more towards. But yeah, it certainly is not terrible either. There are certainly some good lands here. There are certainly some interesting choices in this list. And it's certainly going to be somewhat difficult to find a good balance of what we're looking for and what not in terms of the cards that we've got to choose from in this list. But we've certainly got some good options, and some of these options just aren't that very good. The new cards don't show up here yet, but they will show up in other formats, in other forms. So I better take this list, figure out what I am going to do with it, and yeah, get back to it and show you guys what I did to it to make it better. You can join the Screw Army by subscribing. So here we are, having a look at the deck list that I've upgraded for this one, making sure we've got 100 cards there, which is good. Always good. We're at $111.85, which isn't too much money to put into this deck. So yeah, not too bad, to be honest. Though I will say again, we will say this throughout, that it's a lot to do with what's in the mana base as well, to that extent. Actually, I'm not too happy with this. Just 1 second here. We're gonna slightly alter. I thought that was a little bit wrong as I was looking at it a moment ago. But any which way, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I will say, before I get too far going along with what we're discussing here in this upgrade guide and whatnot, the ins and the outs and whatnot, is that if you don't want to see all this waffle on that I'm going to do for the next probably 15 minutes or whatever it is here, you can just find the deck list down in the description or in the comments below. So yeah, if you just want to check it out, see what I've done to the list, you can check it out there. Otherwise, if you are here for the rest of this, I will be going through it and I will be saying, hey, besides taking out like all of the bad tap lands that I could find in this deck and just replacing them with a whole bunch of basics, I really didn't touch the mana base at all. So I'm not really going to discuss any of these lands that I took out because they're all going to fall into the same category. So there's no real point in me talking about them. I don't know whether people actually want to see me discuss like the outs that much. It's one of those things you can easily like often figure it out for yourself a lot of the time. But for the most part, a lot of the cards, Assemble the Legion's one of the few cards that I would think some people would like. I know a lot of people have suggested it to me here and there and said that it's pretty darn good. I have never found it to be very good at all because it doesn't do anything the turn that you play it. And you only get one 1/1 token at the next upkeep, on your next upkeep. Then you get 2. Then you get 3. Like, eventually you start snowballing it, but it really has to stay out for a very long time for it to do it, unless you have Proliferate or things like that. So I'm just never, like, enamored with it, but it is one of those cards that at least it keeps doing stuff. All of these other, like, spells, these instants and sorceries that are here, are just spells that I felt like they're one-offs and whatnot, so I just do not love them. Because, again, you do get your tokens out of them, but they're one and done, and then you're just, like, sad because it's like, well, I never get it again. And, like, all these ones that are just an ETB, they don't just keep doing stuff for you throughout the rest of the game and whatnot. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. If you can copy some of them, or if you can do other things, then they do have some amount of value, whatnot, but for the most part, a lot of these instant and sorcery cards just weren't really hitting the mark, and the same with a lot of the creatures that are just an ETB and whatnot. A lot of them, I just felt like they didn't do a whole lot either. They didn't really add anything else to the field. And even the Archon here, I know we can turn off our opponent's stuff with it, and that might be good. But it also does turn off our stuff. And yes, it does buff our stuff, but it still turns off our stuff. So it can really hurt us. So, and I'm just like, this Elspeth isn't that good of an Elspeth. What are we doing with this Elspeth? Like, are you just going to tick it down and tick it down to make a few soldiers? Or are you just like, okay, I'll tick it down and then I'll tick it up, or I'll tick it up and then tick it down? Like, I don't know. Or is it just like a bad wrath? You know, like, so that's where I'm at with it. I just never felt like it was that good. So I'm not really going to go through the outs that much more. I'm just going to give you an overall general like perspective because the list is there. and you can find what's out pretty easily. So it's just one of those things. I just think it wastes a lot of time for a lot of people that just want to get to the more interesting sort of stuff. I didn't put anything in the sorceries. I didn't even put anything in the instance. I actually maybe should have took Boris Charm out, but whatever. It's fine. It'll stay there for now. The Covenant, I don't know about it. It's like Teferi's protection, but has Convoke. So it's alright, I guess. But I do think I should have made more room for swords and maybe a contraband livestock and whatnot. So that would be nice. But yeah, that is what it is. Artifacts wise, I don't think I think we did take a few things out, but what I added was Blade of Selves and a lot of I'll still say this really quickly. I don't really understand a lot of the equipment that's in this deck. Wow, there wasn't that much there. I looked at the wrong part. But yeah, like a lot of the equipment that was in this deck, it felt to me like, why is there so much like random equipment in this deck? Why? Like it's not a Voltron deck, and like yes, you can buff one or two of your tokens or whatever with it, but that's not really gonna do a whole lot. When you're putting something like Blade of Selves in, yeah, sure, it's like doing like a single creature, but getting that myriad means that you're tripling your power on the board and getting more tokens. And when your commander is out, you're timesing it by 6 because you're just giving all those tokens double strike. So that's just super powerful. It really changes the game state. It doesn't just help one thing, it really helps your entire game's plan with that. So that's why that's in there instead of like some of those other random just things. We didn't take out a whole lot of the mana ramp that was in this deck, though I kind of wanted to. And even Mask of Memory, I decided to keep that in because even if it's a one-off type benefit for something, it's like at least a good benefit in drawing cards. Yeah, you discard cards, but in these colors, you don't get very much of this sort of stuff. Actually, the new lens here seems really good, even though it's like a one-off token generator. At least, like whenever you attack, if you attack with 2 creatures, essentially, you get to draw a card. That seems okay, not terrible. The Wall Breaker seems amazing, actually. And I would think about like trying to find this for myself to put it in a bunch of other decks that I've got because it's just so good getting an extra combat. But yeah, like Wayfarer's Bauble was another card I added. I think that was kind of it in this. Oh no, we added an Aketra's Monument. That was it. So yeah, that was not a whole lot of stuff that I actually added there or took out there. Enchantments. Let's go. I don't think we took too much out. Put in the piracy to get pirates and whatnot. That's all right. I'd put in Divine Visitation, so whenever we do make a token, we make a 4/4 Angel instead. That's real good. Legion Loyalty, like just Mass Myriad. This is an amazing card. I've said it many times about this card. It's a game winner, and especially in this deck, it's going to be a very good card. Mirror March, yeah, sure, it only works for our non-token stuff, and like legend ruling ourselves a little bit annoying with it, but I didn't think we had that many legends in the deck, so I thought it's fine, and I thought, well, a lot of the stuff does make tokens at certain intervals, so if we make more copies of some of those things, then we'll just keep getting more tokens out of them, so that's real good. And whatnot, so I thought that's fine. Rabble Rousing, really like this one, especially in the deck like this. Getting a whole bunch of those tokens off of it and getting the Hideaway, real good. Like, they don't come in tapped and attacking, but like having them for defense is real good still. And then the Underseller Sweep. Getting the initiative's real good, and then just getting those tokens that are tapped and attacking is real good. It is a little bit more expensive than some of the other things, but it's still real good. Alright, creatures. Adeline, just bonkers amazing. So good for this deck. Makes, 2/1s essentially. If you buff them up in other ways, they're a whole lot better, but yeah. real good still. Battle Angels, the Myriad on this. Again, Myriad's such a good ability because we get to attack each of our opponents and do a whole bunch of damage to them and get more card advantage and whatnot off of that. So it's real good. And it gives us a whole bunch of different effects. The life gains, the least important. The card draw and ramp are probably the most important. So, yeah. Defiler of Faith, like we're fairly heavy on white. I can also just go down here and show you that we're fairly heavy on white. So we'll definitely get it off a fair bit where we get a whole bunch of triggers off of it just to get those tokens. So that's really useful. Duke, giving something Myriad and Haste is real useful. So haste is sometimes something that we would struggle sometimes to get on a lot of things that we really want to attack right away with. So especially some of the bigger things that we've got. So that is very useful, and just giving something Myriad, again, getting to attack each of our opponents, real good. Fire Flux is really good for sort of card advantage. You sacrifice a whole bunch of your just random tokens to funnel through your deck or reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a creature card and put it into play. So that's really useful to turn your tokens into real cards. Rabble Master just makes a goblin. It's one of the worst ones that I sort of added here, but it does buff goblins and whatnot when it attacks, so that's alright as well. Herald of the Host, again, flying in Myriad. It doesn't do anything else, which is kind of bad, but with our commander, it'll be fine. The Hero of Bladehold, just making those tokens, and Battlecry's a decent ability. This isn't the best version of this deck, honestly, as well, but still, it is a very decent version of this deck. And again, it's an aggro deck, so it's just one of those things. You've got to set your expectations. Krenko, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this guy either, but again, he's really useful for this kind of lower sort of strategy and whatnot. So he's fine, and he can make some tokens for us. So that's really all we need. Lena, it is a one-off ETB for the most part, but you can sacrifice her to, essentially give certain creatures indestructible. I was about to say protection. But yeah, that's still fine. So at least it has another ability that it comes up with. The Phalanx, actually, I forgot that this guy is pretty darn good. At the beginning of your combat, you create a token that's a copy of another creature, and it has haste, and you exile that creature at the beginning of the end of combat. So you create a token of copy of this. You create a token copy of one of the creatures that you've got come into play, and you just get extra copies of them. That can be really darn useful. Actually, I will think a little bit more about putting it into my Liara Porter deck, because it just keeps making tokens at least two per turn, so that's real useful. Rumor Gatherer is here for card selection and card draw. It's not the best, obviously, but it's just one of those things that, again, is pretty darn decent, especially in this sort of strategy. So, yeah. Skynight Vanguard, when it attacks, we make a 1/1 creature that's tapped and attacking. Doesn't have any kind of, the token at least, doesn't have any evasion, but that's okay. Actually, that's one thing that I did want to find more evasion for tokens and whatnot, but it's alright. Squee, when he attacks, we make 1/1, and we can return him from our graveyard, so getting that back all the time is going to be really annoying for our opponents, unless they exile it. And then just the Flying in Myriad Toscaras, again, just making those tokens, even if it doesn't do anything else, it'll do something with our commander. So I thought that that's all right. And it is still a very budget card, honestly, as well. So that is what I think here for this list. Unfortunately, some of the newer cards weren't showing up when I did it. this list. So yeah, they're not here, and I just couldn't really wait anymore to try to do this because it's sort of these things have to really come out at a pace. So it's just one of those things that I decided we'll have to just like bite the bullet and deal with that. So anyway, guys, I do hope you have enjoyed looking through the way I would put this deck together, or upgrade it from where it's at to where it probably should be. And you can let me know your thoughts right down there in the comments below, and I'll be sure to hopefully see you in the next one.